Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it appears the next big crazy bit of news has finally come to the Wuthering Waves space. Yes, we have an official confirmation, an official announcement. Cyberpunk X Wuthering Waves, Lucy and Rebecca at Edgerunners at Wuthering Waves by Wendy Lee VO. And this is the thing regarding this situation. It's a little bit crazy. I think that this post being made by Wendy Lee over here, I think it was a mistake. Yes, they basically confirmed the collaboration units that are going to be coming in a future version, and they're going to be, well, Lucy and Rebecca. You can actually see Lucy pictured over here. And if you go check out Wendy Lee's page right now, you'll realize, oh boy, that post really isn't there anymore. But this is kind of like the concept that's going to be happening right now. This isn't like a leak that was like taken internally from like Kuro Games' servers, or like, you know, their office got like ransacked to post this. No, this is official material that unfortunately, maybe due to miscommunication, got scheduled out a bit early. And so with that, there's already been a bunch of content on the internet made about this. I'm not going to be the one guy that's suddenly like standing on morals after pretty much every single other content creator has put something out. And so we're going to be taking a look at this. We're going to be talking about this, and of course, doing as much theorization as we possibly can about what these units are going to bring to Wuthering Waves. First and foremost, some might be wondering, oh boy, is this even valid in the first place? Maybe everyone just got baited by this Wendy Lee person. Well, this is the reality over here, ladies and gentlemen. If you go to the Behind the Voice Actors website, you'll realize Wendy Lee is the voice director. Yes, she is the voice director of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. She's the EN voice director. She also voices, I think, Yoruichi from Bleach. So, yeah, you gooners back in the day might understand her. So, this was posted from her official Twitter. It's not there anymore because, like I said before, the mistake. And you could probably guess, you could probably realize, oh boy, who are we gonna have for Lucy and Rebecca? Looks like Emmy Lowe. You might recognize her as Columbina or Ron May from some of the Hoyoverse franchises. And then we're gonna have Alex Cesares for Rebecca. And so it's pretty much confirmed at this point that we're going to have those two characters, and we're also going to have these two VAs joining us for the EN dub, because like I said before, right, Wendy Lee is the EN voice director for Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So that's pretty damn cool. Now, what I wanted to also talk about was naturally, well, who the hell Lucy and Rebecca are, because the chances are there's a good chance you might not have actually seen Edgerunners yet, and you're thinking about watching it for the collab. I've taken a look at some relatively spoiler-free images over here, just talking about, you know, a little bit about what these characters do, and maybe we'll talk just a little bit further about what I think they're gonna bring to the game. When it comes to Lucy, one big thing about her is that this character has white hair, and also fights a lot with this thing called a mono thread. And so basically a mono thread is like a wire of light that goes around, it cuts through things, blah blah blah. It's basically like a flexible laser. This is basically some official artwork of her using that type of weaponry, and we can all probably guess, well, when you consider what Night City is like, the world of Cyberpunk, and the fact that Night City never sleeps, there's always lights everywhere, a lot of people are under the impression that this is going to be, well, Spectro-based characters, or perhaps fusion. And I think the best way for us to view this is to think about, well, what already exists in the game. If we go ahead and we take a look at the Wuthering Waves roster as a whole, one thing that's pretty obvious is that Spectro is one of the most let's just say interesting elements in the game, or interesting attributes in the game, from the perspective of the roster is kind of fucking cooked. I'm just gonna be honest over here. This is probably the one Spectro unit that we have that actually feels like good and like popular across the player base from a gameplay perspective, but he already comes with some issues of his own. First, Luke is a dude, so that's just automatically right off the bat gonna write him off for a good part of the player base. And second, he's actually kind of difficult to play from a mechanical perspective. He is one of the most like button intensive characters in the game, and isn't really that great for a casual audience. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's kind of just how he works. Then you take a look at the other Spectro characters and you're like, oh, well, you got this absolute disaster of a unit who requires Phoebe to function, and then this unit just kind of is like one form of her is a support that's only meant for this character, and then the other form of her is like a DPS that has some of the most constrained teams in the game. Then you look at the other Spectro character and we got Jancy, and that's just, it's probably not even worth talking about her because, well, she got ignored as well, and she's still looking for her best in slot sub DPS. And we all know based off her kit, she needs an off attribute coordinated attacker, and KURO'S just refusing to put that in the game. My take is that Spectro really does seem like the best fit overall for both of the collab units, specifically because of the fact that it's, in my opinion, one of the most, like, unsatisfying attributes meta-wise, based off of, hey, do you not like Spectro Frazzle? Do you not like male characters? Do you not like main DPSs that will never get their sub DPS support, like Jinxie? That's kind of like what it is right now. One's a dude, but meta-relevant. The other are not really meta-relevant unless you're going to quick swap with them, and then they have, like, the whole Spectro Frazzle restriction. And the other is an outdated character that's not ever going to get their sub DPS at this point. And that's the state of Spectro. Most can argue, and most can say, it is the weakest attribute in the game at the moment. By weakest attribute in the game, I'm not talking about this unit over here, Lene. Spectro over here, her being Spectro is just cosmetic at this point. She's like she could support pretty much any character in the game as long as they deal liberation damage, and her being Spectro is the most irrelevant thing ever when it comes to her kit design. And just based off of the weaponry that we're seeing over here, the stuff that we see her actively doing, both in promotional art as well as in the anime itself, Spectro seems to make the most sense. We also do, however, have some news, or really, not really news, but like previous information regarding what this character is actually capable of in, well, lore. And that is this. I've actually taken a look at the gear, the stats and equipment of these characters for Lucy and Rebecca, and this is Lucy's. The biggest thing to note about her is that Lucy actually doesn't use a lot of weaponry. She only lugs around one pistol, and that's called Unity. So my personal opinion is that she's probably going to be a Spectro pistol user, which is going to feel a little bit odd, right? You might think, oh, it's just going to be like Lene. And the big thing about her, right, is that she's a hacker as well. And you know what that means? She probably is, if KURO Games is really looking to stick to the lore, she's probably going to take on a bit more of a supporting role when it comes to what she does on the battlefield. I think that these two units are probably going to be a sub DPS combo. And Rebecca, to me, seems like a bit more of like that sub DPS position. So if you're wondering about what Unity is, it's a heavy pistol. I'm not going to show a picture of it because I think like guns aren't allowed on YouTube. But yeah, it's a heavy pistol, and that's essentially how it works. And so she's got a bunch of other gear, a bunch of other stuff. Doesn't really matter. A lot of characters like have stuff like this. And the handheld cyber deck, right? Her ability to hack things. And of course, you know, like debuff enemies, all of that. That's essentially where most of her bread and butter actually comes from. She doesn't take on like a massive combat role, but of course, because she's got this stuff ready to go, she is able to handle herself in certain situations. So my personal opinion is that Lucy's going to be a sub DPS buffer that uses a pistol, has some of the mono wire and stuff in some of her animations and attacks. Maybe that's what's going to happen in some of her Forte animations, but she's also going to have a lot of that hacking ability, maybe a way to debuff enemies, and that has some people speculating, right, based off the lore. God forbid, maybe she's like some sort of like Spectro Frazzle support it to like some degree, because a lot of people can probably draw the relationship, right, between hacking, debuffing, all of that stuff, and then maybe she finds some sort of way to like bring this cursed interaction, right, this cursed debuff shit over here, maybe back into the meta. And it would kind of make sense with Zadi and Phoebe rerunning in the second half of 3.2. I don't really want that, though. That seems like a fucking nightmare to me. But if it happens, it happens, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, maybe if we see enough negative response to that potential in her kit, Kuro definitely still has time to rework stuff. Who knows? Who knows how long they've been working on the actual mechanics of the People's Kit at this point. Surely they've got the animations done. Surely they've got, like, the animations and the art style and all of that ready to go, but maybe not, like, the actual effects. Because I think that a collab unit supporting Spectrofrazzle or negative statuses to any degree, that would be an absolute disaster. However, this is something we haven't actually explored yet, and who knows, this could be what occurs. An actual version of Spectrofrazzle that works with Chisa. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been somebody that's been keeping up with the meta at all, one thing you might have realized is that Chisa, with her Ultra skill over here that increases the max stack limit of negative statuses, you know, stuff like Spectrofrazzle, this is the most useless shit ever in a Phoebe team that I think anyone on God's green earth has ever seen. If Kuro decides to actually come out with a debuff Spectrofrazzle archetype, right, that actually interacts with Chisa, interacts with the stack limit going up, so on and so forth, well, that could be something that just deviates completely from the negative status garbage that we have in the game for Spectro right now with Zadi and Phoebe, and actually interacts more with Chisa and could get more in line with that approach that Kuro Games has been taking recently with the release of Denya. And so hacking, well, it kind of makes the most sense over here. Now, though, we also have some other bits of media regarding Lucy that we could take a look at. And that is a previous collab that she was featured in. Guilty Gear Strive. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Lucy actually showed up there as one of the characters, and so we're just gonna go ahead, take a look at, well, what's gonna be, oh, okay, yeah, that's porn right there. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and see what she's capable of in this game. I'm gonna keep it on mute just in case there's any, like, crazy music. So, as you can see over here, she's doing a lot of that hacking. Remember the whole debuffing enemies, that sort of stuff? That's what she's all about. I don't think she hacks into her allies, but maybe she'll be able to buff their abilities. So, you kind of see what's going on, right? This is like, she's got the ability to select a bunch of different things to apply to people while time is frozen. She's got, of course, the mono wire attacks. And probably in a game like this, right, you can see why she's using them so often. And you can see they're multicolored as well. Yeah, a lot of whip action over here. Elite hacker, cyberspace surfer, netrunner vibes, right? One thing we're not noticing in here is that pistol action. And as you can see, a lot of Spectro, light. You can kind of guess why she's why I'm saying she's probably going to be a Spectro character, right? That's what we're looking at right now. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if she just is one of, like, those fake pistol users that equips one, Unity, and then from there basically just only does the mono wire attacks. That seems like what she's probably going to do. And like I said before, the hacking comes in, but maybe she's not going to be, you know, negative status. Maybe she's just going to apply, like, defense reduction down and stuff like that, that, like, persists. We can also see that she has a little bit of, like, personal hacking, too, where she activates, like, the active camo and has all of that stuff going on. So maybe she's going to apply that stuff to her team. But as you can see, the ceiling is kind of like the limit over here. We've already explored a bunch of different possibilities. All I know is that if this character isn't related to light, that's probably going to be one of the craziest things when it comes to the lore. Another thing that we could also think about is simply, like, Electro. And Electro seems like a fair bit as well because it's, like, hacking and stuff like that. You know, like electricity. You know, it's... You probably guess what's going on, right? I don't think that that's too crazy of an idea either. Now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about that. So, Electro Rage is another new debuff that we had added to the game as well. You can see over here that Electro, all of that, it's supported as well by Chisa's kit. I think that it would be a bit of an interesting move to have only the collab characters embody a whole new archetype of negative status. The only other Electro debuff character that we have is Boo Ling, and she's just like a generalist 4-star support for resonant skills. So, yeah, I don't really know if that's the approach that KURO'S gonna take, when these characters may or may not even rerun at all. So, I don't think so, but maybe, who knows? We'll just have to see. Now, moving on, there's of course another character that's supposed to be in this collaboration that got announced, and that's Rebecca. And the big thing about Rebecca is the fact that she's kind of both crazy, as she also has like a metric fuck ton of different weapons. You can see over here, she's got like an SMG of some kind, and there's like a really funny clip over here. Wait, let me go find it. Here it is. Yeah, her main thing about her kit is that she has like 7,000 different weapons. You can see over here, she's got the Crusher, the DB2 Sitara, the D5 Copperhead, Guts, HJSH18 Masamune, M2038 Tactician, 2 times the... You see what's going on over here. My personal take is that she might be a main DPS. That's my personal thought. She might be a main DPS from the perspective of she's got every single goddamn weapon probably in the game equipped. Or some people are saying she could be like a coordinated attacker that just fires off all these different fucking guns off field. Maybe she's a main DPS that actively switches weapons in combat like Devil May Cry, Virgil, Dante, all of that. Has like different stances, different moves she could use for like different attacks at various points in her animations. That could be something that occurs as well. However, one thing that I did want to focus on though, that's a big part of her cyberware, is this. What do you see highlighted right there, guys? Light tattoos. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a big thing about this character's design is that she has all of these tattoos everywhere that, well, they're called light tattoos, right? So my personal take is that she's probably going to be a Spectro DPS, while Lucy, as the hacker, is the sub DPS. That's something that makes a lot of sense to me. Some people are going with the impression that, like, Rebecca's gonna buff Lucy. Why would the character with 7,000 guns be the buffer? And why would the hacker that debuffs enemies be the DPS? Can an enlightened individual explain that to me?
A few moments later.
Okay, so you don't have an actual explanation, so what I'm saying is what makes sense. CD Projekt Red really likes their characters being in line with the lore, and my personal opinion is that Lucy being a main DPS, given the fact that she's a net runner that supports from the back lines, that hacks into systems and doesn't necessarily see a lot of like face-to-face combat herself. That's why I'm thinking she's going to be a bit more of a sub DPS, while this character over here, Rebecca, with all these different guns and all of this shit, she takes on a bit more of a main DPS role. And this is my personal take. I think that this combination of sub DPS Lucy and main DPS Rebecca ends up working out way better, simply from the perspective of, like I said before, the Spectro DPSs in this game aren't really that appealing to a lot of people in the first place. Like I said before, this guy's a dude. Spectro Frazzle's an absolute fucking disaster, and Jinsei hasn't gotten support since 2024. Rebecca being added in as another Spectro DPS kind of just makes sense from the perspective of, you've already got plenty of options to choose from, but it's not like you're going to miss out from not getting them. It's not like you're going to miss out from not having them. However, like we've already seen, another big thing about these two characters is that they have this EMP threading too. So them being Electro isn't also off the table. That's also something that can happen as well. This is all just speculation. This is all just theories. And if I had to put money on what I expect these two characters to end up being, it's either Spectro or Electro, but I do think that both of them should probably be the same attribute. Maybe they'll be split up, maybe they won't, but it makes sense, at least both in like the lore and for just like team building and the current roster that we have in Wuthering Waves. It kind of just makes sense for both of them to end up being, well, teammates with each other. So maybe one's going to be Spectro, maybe one's going to be Electro, but they end up just kind of like buffing each other or working together. they're probably meant to be in the same team composition. Otherwise, it could just get like a little bit, you know, it could just get like a little bit wonky, especially knowing how buffs in this game work. It would be awful, right? And it would be terrible if one of these collab characters ended up being the 50% resident skill echo skill amplifier, right? Or the 50, or like the resident skill damage amplifier, or the liberation 50% liberation damage amplifier and stuff like that. If you're ever in that situation where the collab unit, the sub DPS collab unit ends up being like your best in slot for one of your existing characters, then you would just be like, oh, well, fuck. What am I going to do if I can't actually get them again? What am I going to do with my Sparkle, right? If Archer never runs again. That's the reason why, that's one of the big reasons for why Archer was free and all of that. And my personal take is that I'm hoping that one of these two, whenever they do come out, one of them is announced for free. And when the person that's, you know, free ends up getting announced, I hope that it's, I hope that it's the DPS unit. Yeah, I think the DPS unit out of the two probably ends up making the most sense to be the one that ends up being free. And then the sub DPS or whatever, I'm kind of hoping that if there is a sub DPS in this collab, like I said before, they could both be main DPSs as well and just have different teams. I'm hoping that the sub DPS of this collab, if there is one, they just have kind of like a duplicate outro skill. I think that'd be cool, right? Hey, yo, just add another 50% heavy attack amplifier to the game, or another 50% echo skill damage amplifier to the game, or something like that. Just make it so that not having them doesn't feel bad to your account, especially if you're somebody that just starts the game later. And, well, just keep that in mind moving forward. Yeah, a lot of unconfirmed information over here, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of speculation when it comes to what these different characters are going to be doing. But one thing that we know for sure is that this announcement over here from the EN voice director of Edgerunners, well, that just means that this collab, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to have an EN dub. And we all know about gacha collabs recently and EN dubs, or lack of EN dubs. Yeah, however's could never. Yeah, however's could never. Yeah, this is what the fake collabs sound like on the EN dub. You like that? You like that? Hell yeah, brother. I'm sorry, that exit animation was crazy though. Wait, that was... I never finished the fake collab story because I knew it was shit after like the silent, like after like 90% of the story was like in like a silent film. I had no idea this was how it ended. Wait, how are there not more people making fun of how it ended? That is some dog shit over there. Wow, she's just like, she was literally like that meme where like the guy like disappears. Like he just like that, and then he's like gone. What was that? Nobody played it that far? I think we might be the first people in gacha history that saw that transition. Like, holy shit. Anyways, Hoyoverse could never. Because a lot of people are going to view an official announcement from the voice director of the EN dub. They're going to view this as, well, it kind of makes sense that the Cyberpunk collab is actually going to have the EN dub if the voice director for the EN dub made a post about it. And so, yeah, this post is now deleted, but the damage has already been done. I think that thing had like 5,000 likes before it was gone, and there was already like 4 or 5 videos made. So the news is already out there, the publication is already made, and unfortunately, that's just how the space works when it comes from an official account. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be our final take when it comes to the Cyberpunk collab, the official confirmation of Lucy and Rebecca. I know we talked a little bit about David, but don't worry, we've got a future video talking about that one coming up very, very soon. Let me know what you all thought about this one. Peace out.